Organizers of today's event, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the Open Government Partnership and Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative for giving me this opportunity to address this august audience during this high-level discussion on beneficial ownership transparency in Africa. Poor governance, corruption, and lack of transparency are major problems that hinder economic and social development everywhere. The urgency for more efficient governance has been accentuated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The African Economic Outlook 2021 estimates that African governments need additional gross financing of about 154 billion United States dollars in 2020 and 2021 alone to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. Since March 2020, the African Development Bank has approved about 3.4 billion United States dollars in funding to support its member states under its COVID Crisis Response Facility, CRF for short. At the same time, the bank raised a record-breaking United States dollars 3 billion in social bonds in the global capital market in 2020 for supporting the African governments to respond to the COVID pandemic. Yet, African governments are struggling to find the resources needed to finance the health, social, and economic responses to the COVID crisis. Therefore, African governments cannot afford to forego any revenues from business activities. Neither can they afford that available resources are wasted or lost through leakages, illicit flows, and corruption. The bank has provided an important push for reforms that ensure greater transparency and accountability as part of its COVID response facility for African countries. The bank, alongside its member countries, is committed to promoting good governance through its work on the continent together with its partners. This year, the bank adopted its strategy for economic governance in Africa. The strategy defines the priority areas of intervention for the bank over the coming 5 years. It gives particular attention to enhancing domestic resource mobilization, combating illicit financial flows, and ensuring greater transparency, which all contribute to the flaws of beneficial ownership. Beneficial ownership is typically used to avoid taxes, but also to hide proceeds of criminal activities from authorities, such as money laundering, bribery, and corruption, or for financing terrorism. It therefore has serious implications for the continent's ability to mobilize resources for its development, stability, and global security. The issues of beneficial ownership are particularly prevalent in the natural resources sector. Governance of the natural resources sectors is one of our chief concerns in the African Development Bank Group, due to the huge potential of natural resources to spur structural transformation on the continent. Unfortunately, the countries and their citizens are still not accruing fair benefits from natural resource exploitation in their countries. Natural resource sectors, and particularly the extractive sectors, are plagued by lack of transparency and inefficient governance that limit revenues accruing to citizens. This prevents the wider beneficiation that could promote economic linkages and other positive multiplier effects that can spur inclusive and sustainable growth in Africa. The bank has been promoting policies and building capacity of its regional member countries to address this situation over the years. We are supporting our regional member countries to promote local and regional content, foster economic linkages, and value addition to maximize benefits of the exploitation of their natural resources throughout the resource value chains. The transboundary and transversal nature of illicit financial flows and undisclosed beneficial ownership requires a coordinated global action to address effectively. Multilateral development banks, such as the African Development Bank Group, bilateral donors, international and local civil society organizations need to come together to scale up interventions for increased impact. I therefore commend you for this high-level discussion today. Let us stand together with the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative and the Open Government Partnership to reinforce this message and support concerted action around beneficial ownership transparency in Africa and globally.